Wow! Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, released in 2018 and is directed by Bob Persichetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rotham. And this film is starring the voices of Shameik Moore, Jake Johnson, Haley Steinfeld, Mahershala Ali, Brian Tyree Henry, Lily Tomlin, Luna Lauren Velez, John Mulaney, Miko Glenn, Nicolas Cage, and Liev Schreiber. And the reason why we're talking Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is that we are leading up to the release of Spider-Man No Way Home and the release of my ranking of all of the Spider-Man movies to ever be released mainstream. And I love going down memory lane with the Spider-Man movies. They were a part of my childhood, going back to the original Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire in 2002. So to see Spider-Man evolve over time to where he was in the highest of highs and then dancing all the way down to the lowest of lows, it's really fun to see. But what's even greater is seeing him in this animated world and just being in awe of everything that is on the screen. Miles Morales is struggling finding his place in the world after winning a scholarship to attend a private high-tech school instead of being with his friends in his public school that he's used to. And while in the midst of one of his great taggings on a wall, he gets bitten by a radioactive spider. And also on top of this, he witnesses the death of famous Spider-Man Peter Parker at the hands of the Kingpin. And while Miles is dealing with the brand new spider powers that he is feeling, he also needs to deal with some other Peter Parkers that are showing up in his dimension. That's right, before Spider-Man No Way Home is dealing with the multiverse and multiple Spider-Mans and multiple different versions of villains that we've seen before, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse did it first in mainstream media. I should say mainstream movies. If you watch the Spider-Man cartoon from the 90s, they had a whole episode where there were like 20 different Peter Parkers and Spider-Man, so yeah, no, this is the first one in the movies. And in my opinion, it's the one that did it the best. I had given Ultimate Spider-Man with Miles Morales a chance. When it came out in trade paperbacks, I read the very first volume, and I kind of slammed it on the table and said, I hate this character. How they presented Miles in the comics didn't connect with me, and I hated this guy. He was resentful because he got into this pristine school that everyone was dying to be in, but he's going to school and he's like, oh, I just don't want to be here. In my opinion, I'm like, okay, don't. There were hundreds, thousands of other people who applied for that one position that you are not grateful for. So yeah, sure, go ahead and quit. And then in the comic book series, when Spider-Man dies, that's where the Brian Michael Bendis version of Peter Parker and that whole series, which is my favorite series, ended with the death of Peter Parker. Because Miles was bitten by a spider and he's starting to show spider powers, he sees the death on TV and he's like, oh, well, I guess I gotta be Spider-Man, and goes buy a costume of Spider-Man and starts doing Spider-Man things. And everyone, like the day after he dies, everyone who saw him was like, dude, no, too soon, weak dude, not cool. And that's how I felt too, and I hated this character. This movie made me fall in love with Miles. We dive farther into his psyche, we dive into his backstory, and we see a lot more reasoning behind his resentment of going to the school and wanting to break out and be his own person and not being parented by his parents. He wants to be his own man. But then also dealing with the Spider-Man curse of with great power comes great responsibility, even though you're not supposed to say that line in these movies anymore. And regardless if you're Peter Parker or if you're Miles Morales, that is the conundrum that you have to deal with. So to see him deal with that is so humanizing. And when you humanize a character as well as they do in this movie, you immediately are just drawn in and you are looking through this world through Miles's eyes and you feel like, yep, that's me. I totally get that. I have something like this in my own life that I can relate to. This character is great. And not only that, but we also have the passing of the torch with Peter Parker. Or at least this alternate version of Peter Parker, who is not the most lean and is not the most ambitious due to a couple of breakups and terrible things that happen in his life. But you see him get that kick in the butt and that extra kind of oomph forward to, do something with your life and make a change in your life for the better. And then you also get other great characters like Spider-Gwen, Noir Spider-Man, John Mulaney as Spider-Ham is perfect. I freaking love John Mulaney, so to see him come out here, hey, do animals talk in this world? Because I don't want to freak him out. Everyone here, voice-wise, is freaking great. So you take the greatness of the voice acting, and then you multiply it by 100 with the animation style here, which is awe-inspiring. I remember watching this movie in the theater, and the first 10 minutes, I'm sitting as far back as I possibly can, because I'm just in awe. I'm almost like in tears looking at the screen going, this is fucking beautiful. You are watching a live-action comic on screen. Like, you see all of the little print dots everywhere in the shadowing, in the lights, and in the borders. It's stunning. It's such a great style. This film was nominated for Best Animated Feature. I said if this film doesn't win, the Oscars is just bullshit, because people just don't know what they're talking about if this movie doesn't win. The leaps and bounds that this film has taken animation to is insane, and I can't wait for the sequel. And this film is a great example of how you can show a colorful and fun Spider-Man tale, but also keep in the darkness that is needed for the Spider-Man mythos. And I think that is one of the biggest problems with the Tom Holland MCU Spider-Man films, is that it doesn't feel like there's any suffering from that version of Peter Parker. Spider-Man loses almost everyone who's important to him at one point in his life. There are so many people out there who are like, no, I want fun and laughs and humor in all of my superhero films. And in Spider-Man, he's fun, he's young, and he's supposed to be, funny and quippy. I don't want emo, dark, gritty Spider-Man. But that is who Spider-Man is. And again, this movie just melds the two versions perfectly. If you recall in my Amazing Spider-Man reviews, I compared those films to the rebound person in your relationship. The Raimi Spider-Mans, that was your long-term relationship, and the one that was pretty solid and pretty good, but you kind of grew apart in the end. And then the Amazing Spider-Mans, that's the rebound, that's the person that you go out with and you have a good couple of nights with to kind of just get your wheels turning again, only to find yourself with a nice, solid, perfect marriage with Tom Holland. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I like to equate to, like the most erotic, perfect night that you have ever had with a stranger. The perfect one-night stand, if you will. You don't know each other's names, but you're in town on business, and you look across the bar, and you see each other's eyes, and you are immediately attracted to each other, only to take whoever it is up to your room and just have one wild night of sexual escapades and champagne and alcohol and sexual escapades again, only for you to wake up and find that they aren't there. It was almost as if they were a ghost that appeared and gave you one of the best nights of your entire life. That is this movie. Everything about it is tremendous, even down to the smallest detail of when Miles Morales is learning how to swing with his web shooters. It's caught in a very small frame rate, so it almost looks like Miles is kind of in stop motion. He's kind of jerky, but then as he gets better, and by the end of the movie, when he's a master of his web shooter, he's shot in way more frames, and he looks smooth, he looks perfect, he looks great. God, this whole movie is fantastic. There's not a bad thing about this movie. This was one of the best movies of 2018. This is art. This is one of the best comic book films ever made. We should have 10 more sequels to this, because there are so many different avenues that we can go down with the Spider-Verse, with the multiverse. You could really do anything. I can't wait for more. This is one of the best. I'm going to give Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 5 out of 5 Blu-rays.
I think I see blue. He looks glorious.
Alright everyone, we are continuing our Spider-Man series next by entering into the MCU. That's right, we are leaving the Spider-Verse and going all the way to the Marvel Cinematic Universe with our first film of Tom Holland, Spider-Man Homecoming. A movie that I enjoy tremendously. I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. He's such a great Peter Parker. And this film also has Michael Keaton, who is he's just freaking cool. But we'll check out Spider-Man Homecoming next time. If any of you have recommendations of films that you want me to review on here, you can make a PayPal donation on the main page of my YouTube channel. Any size donation will do. Just attach your movie recommendation with your donation, and if I have access to it, I will watch it, review it, give you a shout out on the channel, and get my review of it published as quickly as I possibly can. So guys, have you seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse? What did you think about it? Or if you've never seen it before, and you stumbled across because of this video, then comment below, let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell so you know the next time I'm releasing my next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time with my review of Spider-Man Homecoming. So in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.